welcome to TalkRx with Dr. Neha. Today I have a special friend and guest, Holly, and she's here with us to ask her communication question and allow all of you to learn from her question. So thanks, Holly.
You're welcome. Thanks, Neha.
Yeah, well, today's a special day for you, too.
It's a special day. It is my 60th birthday today. And
Happy birthday.
thank you very much. I used to be very birthday phobic. And I would never tell anybody when my birthday was. I was passive aggressive about birthday celebrations, like I kind of would dare people to know, and if they didn't make a fuss, I'd get upset. And
Oh my God, act like it's not important, but it's really, really important.
Exactly. And also 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Wow.
And so therefore, my whole attitude about birthdays has completely changed. Now I embrace them. And I'm thrilled to be having a milestone birthday today. 60 years, it's a long time. And I definitely want to see 70 and 80 years. That's my plan. So aging, I bring it on. I'm ready for it.
Oh, how beautiful. Yeah. So when you said I have cancer, right? I think what surprised me was that you said it's been 4 years.
Yes, this week.
I cannot believe it's been 4 years.
Yeah, I was diagnosed the week of my birthday 4 years ago. And it's been a tremendous journey for me.
Right.
And one of the main things that happened during this journey, first of all, there was the whole resetting of my priorities. What was important?
Yeah.
What I thought was important wasn't important.
Yeah.
And things that had never been important became very important.
Right.
So that was a real eye-opener for me.
Yeah. To name a few things that became really important, because I call family. I call a diagnosis of any kind, like a heart attack, a stroke, pneumonia, cancer. Those are like the moments that your life comes into clear focus.
Yes.
Right?
That's right.
It's like a wake-up call.
Oh, totally was.
Yeah.
Totally was. It's like all of a sudden you see the mortality, and you're going, well, wait, I don't want time to run out before I do this, that, and the other that I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
And before I tell so and so that I love them, and before I forgive my parents, and all those things that you kind of like brush towards the side, and I'll get to it. But when you have a terminal illness, it suddenly becomes like an alarm clock. And you're going, well, wait a minute, I might not have the time I thought I had. So I better, start working on this now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what is it that you're wondering about?
Well, one of the main concerns that I had was that I didn't want to be the girl with cancer. So I did not tell a lot of people until just about 6 months ago. Not even 6 months ago. I only told close friends and family.
Yep.
And I kept it a secret because I didn't want, to be the person, that people were whispering about, or, maybe not hiring. Maybe thinking, well, why would we hire her? She's going to die.
Wow. Yeah.
So all those kinds of, paranoia feelings came into play.
Yep.
And then back in December, several months ago, I wrote an article for the Huffington Post. I write for them frequently.
Yeah.
And it was called The Big C, S-E-E. And it was really about how cancer had changed my life, changed my priorities, changed what I thought was important, and became, like you said, a gigantic wake-up call.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like standing on a mountain and just shouting it out to the world, because obviously once it was up there, everyone knew.
Yeah.
Everyone at my office knew, hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
All people that knew me for years never knew. All of a sudden they knew.
Right.
And it was a real eye-opener moment. A dear friend of mine had said to me, he had ALS, and he said, I urge you to do this, and I'll tell you why. You will not believe how it will change your life when everyone knows, and then the support that will just flood to you. And that's exactly what happened.
So it was actually nothing that you thought was going to happen.
It was the best thing I could have done.
Wow.
Yeah, it really was.
There's a huge weight to physically and biochemically in your body to holding secrets.
Yeah.
Secrets are a big deal. They're a big deal because they're so close to your vest, so close to your heart.
Right.
And you're sure if people know, they'll treat you differently, you won't be accepted, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
When in fact, it's like that counterintuitive experience that you're
Yes.
sharing, which is the flood of love, connection, support, everything you wanted came through that avenue.
I really, speaking my truth turned out to be the best thing for my physical and mental and emotional health.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I have this awareness prescription, and it's 5 questions that when I'm at the bedside with a patient and there's a diagnosis like this, that I give them as, like, I just write it on my prescription pad and hand it to them. Would you be willing to go through those 5 questions?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you were, or even now, why don't you just do it as if it was now? Why this is the first question. So why cancer, right? Mm-hmm. Why not, your left arm being broken? Why not something else, right? Why not a heart attack? Why, in your best understanding from your intuition, was cancer your wake-up call?
Well, I believe, no one knows what causes cancer, certainly.
Right.
But I think stress has a lot to do with it. And I've lived most of my life in a very stressful state, especially since growing up and, working and everything. And there have been jobs I've had where I was in a stress fight or flight mode for like months at a time.
Wow.
And I think that had a lot to do with why cancer.
Like your body was so stressed for so long that it was completely disintegrating, depleted.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I do think so, yeah.
And the second question is, why now? So at that point in your life, right, you were 56 years old. Mm-hmm. Why then? Why at that moment? Not 10 years earlier, not a few years later. Like, why in that moment did it happen?
Well, at that moment in my life, I was in a stressful job, as usual, and it was a job that I didn't really like. I didn't really feel like it was a fit for me.
Yeah.
And it just was kind of a square peg in a round hole kind of feeling.
Yeah.
And I think that may have had a lot to do with why now. Mm-hmm.
Did it give you a reason to kind of get up and out of that?
Yes.
Uh-huh. So you made major changes. It was like your wake-up call that got you out of that.
Well, I kind of had to.
Yeah.
I just actually wrote a recent article about my 4-year anniversary with cancer. And I told the entire story, which I had never told before, about my diagnosis and how my job reacted, which was the opposite of supportive. And kind of, it was a small company, and they just kind of, cut my pay.
Wow.
And made me, it was kind of like I was thrown out of the nest, and I had to, rather than, get used to the fact of having cancer and the changes in my life that were coming with that diagnosis, how to live with that every day, I was instead frantically looking for a job.
And healthcare.
And a job with healthcare.
Yeah, right.
So when I found a job, I was very lucky. I found one pretty quickly.
Yeah.
A job that I love. When I found that job, the first thing I did was check that their healthcare would cover my treatments, and it did.
Yep.
So, because I wouldn't have,
gone
any further.
Yeah, it was about survival.
Yeah.
So we did why this, why now, right? Now it's what signals had you missed along the way?
The signals that I missed was knowing how to relax, and knowing that, I knew how to relax. I just never made it a priority.
So you were busy making everybody else a priority.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
And giving to all these other people, feeling depleted, and not doing anything for yourself.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And what has cancer done?
Well, cancer made me realize that I'm the most important person in my life.
Yeah,
which was always true, but I never lived that truth.
Right. And now there's days you have to go get treatment.
Yeah.
There are days you have to take off.
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And is everything going well?
Everything's going very well,
Yeah.
and I have a great team at Sloan Kettering, and I'm very, very happy with my doctor, and they've just been so supportive and
So there's another level of support and connection.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So question number 4. What else in your life needed to be healed?
A lot of things. One of the major things was my relationship with my mother. It was never an easy relationship, and I had to tell her I had cancer. That was the hardest conversation I've ever had to do in my life. You know, my mother.
So you were not telling her even.
Well, no. I'm talking about after I was diagnosed.
Yeah.
She doesn't live anywhere near me. I didn't want to tell her on the phone.
Right.
So I flew to where she lives to discuss it.
Got it.
And to tell her in person.
That's a tough one.
And it was a tough conversation because she's also a breast cancer survivor. And it was just, it was hard. By that time, I could have the conversation without crying.
Yeah.
And I had all these kind of rote phrases like, it's a chronic condition, it's just like diabetes.
Wow.
That's how I consider it, that's how I'm looking at it.
You took the emotion out of it.
Exactly. And I said, you know, it's stage 4, it's metastatic, but Mom, I'll always have it, I'll always have to be treated, but I don't consider this a death sentence at all. That is not the way I look at it.
Holly, that is one of the things I love about you, like just eternal optimism. Like you really see the glass half full, and I think that's what carries you, because it's like your spirit. Like I couldn't believe that you were turning 60. To me, you are not 60. You know, you are this spirit who loves social media and loves, you know, connecting, and you're current and you love pop culture. I mean, oftentimes you've informed me about what's happening, you know? And so age is a funny thing. It doesn't always match.
No, it doesn't.
You know?
It doesn't at all.
So, okay, so what needed to really be healed was your relationship with your mother.
Yes. And a lot of other relationships I had, you know.
Yeah.
There were relationships that weren't serving me that I just kind of had to, that's the other thing, it just levels the playing field. When you have cancer, you know who your friends are. You know,
and how's that?
Well, there are people that you tell and you immediately know it's the wrong thing to do because those people drop out of your life all of a sudden.
Like
Not a
it's
lot
too
of
much.
people. But they can't really handle it because it's like you're holding a mirror up to their mortality.
Yeah,
When
or their
you-
fear of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Their fear of cancer.
Yeah.
And maybe they're afraid they don't want to be around when you die or something.
Right.
I'm just like kind of projecting here.
Right, just making up stories, what it
Yeah.
might be.
I'm just thinking what it exactly
Like it
what it might
triggers
be.
something in
It
them.
triggers something.
And
Yes.
when you get triggered emotionally, it requires a lot of emotion,
Yes.
a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I meant to say. So when you get triggered, it requires a lot of emotion.
Yes.
And it takes up your energy, for sure. Right?
Yeah.
So the final question is, if you spoke from the heart, what would you say?
I would say I would never be as presumptuous or silly to say, I'm glad I got cancer. But I'm glad that something as monumental as that diagnosis came to my life to wake me up. Because I needed to be woken up. I did.
So beautiful.
Thank
So I
you.
can feel myself getting emotional.
Thank you.
I want to take a moment to kind of just say thank you for being so honest and open.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thanks, Neha.
And this reminds me, for all of you out there that are thinking that you've got all this time, what I really heard you say today is that before this you weren't actually living.
That's
and
right.
Cancer came into your life, and what you're grateful because for whatever time you have, which you are pretty sure is going to be a long time, which I love, you're going to be alive.
That's right.
Right? It's not even that you're just alive, you're going to be living your life fully. Right?
That's exactly right.
And so for all of you out there, what would it take in your life for you to show up and really live your life fully? And that's the question I'd like to leave you with. Thank you.
Thank you.